Right before your life is about to change, everything around you will feel like it's falling apart. But what if that breakdown is the exact sign you've been praying for? Listen closely, because if you miss this message, you might miss the moment you were made for. There's a pattern in life that few notice, yet those who do rise. And it is this: the universe never gives you anything great without first preparing you through discomfort. Pain is the signal. Resistance is the sign. When everything feels like it's collapsing, God might just be clearing space for what's coming. You think you're being punished, but what if you're being promoted? What if every rejection, every delay, every closed door was never against you, but for you? See, when God is preparing you for something greater, He doesn't always announce it with comfort. He does it through challenge. That relationship ending? That opportunity disappearing? That unexpected silence? It's all part of the process. Delay is not denial, it's divine development. Look at your life. What are you being pushed away from right now? What's crumbling that might just be where the sign is hiding? Because before elevation comes isolation, before clarity comes confusion, and before the reward comes the test. This is not the time to give up. It's the time to grow up. Strength is being forged in the fire you're tempted to run from. Purpose is being built in the patience you're learning right now. The difference between those who rise and those who remain isn't talent, it's perspective. Winners see signs in setbacks. They hear God's whisper in the silence. And most importantly, they keep going. So don't miss this sign. That tension you feel is transformation. That pain you carry is potential. That storm you're facing is not the end. It's the beginning of something greater. God is preparing you. The question is, will you be ready when it's time? There comes a moment in every person's life where everything seems to unravel. The pressure mounts, the options disappear, the vision becomes clouded. It's the point where most people feel tempted to quit, to retreat into safety, to abandon their goals, to settle for what's easy instead of enduring what's necessary. But what they fail to recognize is that this precise moment, this breaking point, is where transformation begins. Life does not hand out breakthroughs in comfort. It delivers them through struggle, through resistance, through the friction that refines not just our results, but our identity. Consider the story of a man who had spent years building his business, sacrificing sleep, investing every dollar, believing in a dream others mocked. And then, one month, everything seemed to crash. Debt collectors at his door, a lawsuit he couldn't afford to fight, even his closest friends distancing themselves. He found himself on the edge of bankruptcy, alone, angry, and exhausted. He reached what he believed was his breaking point. He sat in silence and questioned everything. Was it worth it? Was he wrong all along? Should he give up now before he lost even more? But in that stillness, something else rose within him, a clarity he hadn't experienced before. Not something that came from reading a book or watching a video, but something born from the fire of necessity. The kind of raw insight that only comes when comfort is stripped away. That one insight became the foundation for what would later grow into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. This is not an isolated tale. It is a universal pattern. The moment when you think you've got nothing left, the moment you want to walk away, is often the moment right before the tide turns. Nature itself echoes this truth. A seed must break apart before it grows roots. Muscles must tear before they grow stronger. Gold must be put through fire before it shines. The same principle applies to human potential. It's only when we are pushed past the edge of who we've been that we're forced to discover who we can become. The breaking point exposes weakness, yes, but more importantly, it invites reinvention. It calls forth strength we didn't know was there. Not because it's magically given, but because it's activated by resistance. One of the greatest misunderstandings we face in the pursuit of our goals and desires is confusing delay with denial. In our culture of instant gratification, We expect everything to arrive on our timeline. We want immediate answers, immediate rewards, and immediate signs of progress. So when something doesn't happen when we think it should, when the job doesn't come through, when the relationship doesn't work out, when the opportunity vanishes, we interpret the delay as a no. We assume the door is permanently closed. But what if it's not a no? What if it's not rejection at all, but rather redirection? What if the delay is actually a divine setup for something far greater than what we originally asked for? Imagine a young woman who spent years preparing to get into her dream medical school. She had the grades, the recommendations, the passion, but the rejection letters still came. She was devastated. Her entire sense of purpose felt like it had been ripped away. For months she questioned her path, wondering if she had misread the calling on her life. But instead of giving up, she used the gap year to volunteer in a medical mission overseas. What she experienced there reshaped her understanding of medicine, human suffering, and the kind of doctor she wanted to become. That year of unexpected delay became the most transformative period of her life. The following year, she reapplied not only with a stronger application, but with a deeper clarity and drive. She was accepted into an even better program and eventually founded her own international medical outreach. Looking back, the delay that once felt like failure revealed itself to be an essential season of development. This kind of divine development cannot be rushed. It operates on a timing that often conflicts with our expectations. It works in silence, behind the curtain, in the places we can't see. And in that unseen space, growth is taking place. Patience is being forged. Character is being shaped. Skills are being refined. The delay isn't a denial of your destiny. It's the construction phase. It's the preparation that must happen before the weight of the blessing can be carried. Because without the process, the promise would crush you. What feels like a closed door may actually be a locked gate guarding the right moment, not the wrong dream. There's a mysterious pattern that repeats itself in the lives of those who are called to something greater. Just before they step into a new level of purpose or influence, they find themselves alone. Not by accident, but by design. The relationships that once brought comfort begin to fade. The voices that once offered constant validation go quiet. The invitations stop coming. The room grows smaller, the distractions disappear, and all that remains is the individual and the silent. This is not punishment. It is preparation. Because before elevation comes isolation, a sacred, often uncomfortable space where clarity is born, character is refined, and dependency on external affirmation is stripped away. Think of the lives of people who were elevated to greatness, and you'll often find a period of solitude that preceded their breakthrough. Take the example of a gifted musician who once thrived in a bustling social circle, constantly surrounded by the energy of others. She performed often, enjoyed recognition, and never questioned the rhythm of her life. But then, without warning, opportunities dried up. Friends became distant. Days were suddenly filled with silence. At first, she fought it, tried to recreate the noise, tried to stay busy, but the doors remained closed. Eventually, with nothing else left to do, she turned inward. In that forced solitude, she discovered parts of her creativity she had neglected. She wrote from a deeper place, explored new styles, tapped into raw emotions she had never dared express publicly. By the time the world heard her again, she wasn't the same. Her voice carried weight, her lyrics had power, and her sound resonated on a much higher frequency. That isolated season, once mistaken for abandonment, was actually the incubator for her transformation. This pattern appears in nature, too. The eagle, often symbolic of vision and leadership, builds its nest high above the noise of the world, in places unreachable by most. It doesn't grow strong in the flock. It sharpens its wings in the heights, in solitude. The same is true of leaders, creators, and those being prepared for something significant. The isolation removes distractions not to punish, but to sharpen focus. It separates you not to diminish you, but to increase your capacity. Because in isolation, the superficial falls away. What remains is substance, vision, discipline, and an unshakable connection to the purpose that called you in the first place. Every time you step closer to something meaningful, whether it's a goal, a calling, or a higher version of yourself, you will meet resistance. It's not optional. It's not random. It's inevitable, and more importantly, it's intentional. Resistance is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's often the clearest signal that you're on the right path. It rises not to stop you, but to test you, to stretch you, to see if you're truly ready to carry what you say you want. Just like a muscle cannot grow without strain, the spirit cannot be strengthened without struggle. The resistance doesn't show up to break you. It shows up to build you. It reveals whether your desire is casual or committed, whether you want comfort or you want change, and most importantly, whether you're prepared to hold the weight of the blessing you've been asking for. Consider the journey of a young entrepreneur who had finally reached the moment he dreamed of for years. His product was ready. The investors were lined up. The doors were opening. But as soon as he stepped forward, unexpected obstacles emerged. A critical partner pulled out. A legal complication surfaced. Suddenly, the momentum turned into a series of setbacks. People around him said it was a sign to back off, that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But deep down, he sensed it was a test, not a rejection. Instead of folding, he leaned in. Every ounce of resistance forced him to upgrade. His mindset, his systems, his standards. And when the breakthrough finally came, it wasn't luck or timing that carried him. It was the grit he developed in the friction. The resistance didn't block his path. It proved he was ready to walk it. This is the purpose of resistance. It uncovers what's weak, exposes what's unprepared, and demands growth in the areas that would otherwise stay dormant. It does not care about your intentions. It demands your transformation. And the more significant the thing you're moving toward, the stronger the resistance will be. Not to stop the outcome, but to shape the one who must carry it. When you're in the middle of something falling apart, it rarely feels like preparation. In fact, it almost always feels like failure. Things go wrong, plans collapse, people walk away, opportunities vanish. And in the moment, it's hard not to believe that you missed your chance or made a mistake. But life, in its deeper wisdom, often disguises preparation as a setback. What looks like something being taken from you is often something being cleared for you. What feels like a step backward is often the exact movement needed to reposition you for what's next. We don't usually recognize preparation in real time because it's messy, uncomfortable, and humbling. But underneath that disruption, something powerful is taking shape. Skills are developing, character is being refined, and clarity is emerging. Think about the story of a talented young athlete who was destined for a professional career. She had everything going for her: speed, discipline, relentless drive. Scouts were watching, offers were circling, and her future seemed sealed. Then, out of nowhere, a devastating injury struck. One bad landing, one torn ligament, and just like that, her identity had been built on performance, and now that platform was gone. But during her recovery, something unexpected happened. She began to study the mechanics of her sport more deeply, learned the science behind movement, and started coaching younger athletes from her team. Over time, what had seemed like a career-ending setback turned into a whole new calling. She discovered a passion for sports medicine and performance training. Years later, not only did she return to competition, but she also launched her own performance clinic, helping hundreds of athletes avoid the same mistakes that had cost her. That injury, which had once felt like a cruel detour, turned out to be the foundation of her long-term impact. This is how preparation hides itself. It doesn't come dressed in achievement or applause. It comes wrapped in difficulty, disappointment, and delay. And because we're conditioned to measure progress only by visible success, we misread the very signals that indicate growth. The closed door isn't always the end of the opportunity. It might be the start of a deeper lesson. The betrayal isn't just heartbreak. It might be the removal of someone who couldn't go where you're headed. The failure isn't always a fall. It might be the pruning required before the bloom. There comes a point in every meaningful pursuit when logic runs out, certainty disappears, and fear creeps in. It's the moment when you're no longer standing on firm ground, but on faith. When the vision you've been holding on to hasn't materialized yet, and every voice, both around you and within you, whispers doubt. This is the crossroads where most dreams die. Not because people lack talent or opportunity, but because they allow fear to outrun their faith. Fear is persuasive. It magnifies the risks, amplifies the unknowns, and presents worst-case scenarios as inevitable truths. It tells you to wait, to shrink, to play it safe. But faith, the unwavering belief in what cannot yet be seen, speaks a different language. It calls you forward when everything says stay still. It pushes you to act not in the absence of fear, but in defiance of it. And when your faith becomes bigger than your fear, that's when movement happens. That's when doors begin to open, and that's when transformation begins to unfold. Take, for example, a single mother who had a vision to start a business that would not only support her family, but serve her community. She had no investors, no safety net, and barely enough to cover her rent. Everyone around her said it was too risky, that she should wait for a more secure time. But she couldn't shake the pull inside her, the sense that this was her assignment. She moved forward, terrified but determined, launching her idea from her small kitchen table. There were setbacks, plenty of nights filled with anxiety and unanswered questions, but her faith never wavered. She believed not just in the business, but in the purpose behind it. She trusted that the same force that gave her the vision would also make the way. Over time, her courage paid off. Her idea gained traction, her story inspired others, and what once seemed impossible became inevitable. Her fear never fully disappeared, but her faith always spoke louder. It carried her through rejection, scarcity, and self-doubt, and eventually into a place of impact and stability that fear alone would have never allowed her to reach. This is what separates those who merely wish from those who manifest. Fear will always show up, but it doesn't have to take the lead. Faith doesn't remove the fear, it overrides it. It shifts the focus from what might go wrong to what could go right. It reminds you that even if the path is uncertain, the calling is clear.